The volatile situation in Haiti is certainly creating a lot of uncertainty. Among the unanswered questions, who will run the country after the current president's term expires next month? Nikolas Barry-Shaw is a voting rights associate at the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. He joins us live from Montreal. Welcome to our broadcast.
Thanks for having me on.
The elections are off for now, but how can we guarantee a safe and fair election even at a later date?
I think the most important thing is for the international community to change its approach to these elections, starting with the United States. They've been pushing relentlessly for meeting this February 7th deadline, and even over and above concerns about fraud and massive irregularities in the October 25th election. And so I think that's the main thing that needs to change, and it needs to change on the part of the government, on the part of the Electoral Council, but also on the part of the international community that has provided over $30 million to this organizing these elections.
I was just going to say, Nicholas, the international community, I think the U.S. specifically has donated millions of dollars. How can you ask them to take their hand out of the pie when they're sending all the money?
Well, I mean, this is a structural problem. Haiti has had this problem for a long time. The donor countries act as if, because they're giving money to Haiti, they have a right to violate its sovereignty or to dictate its politics to it. And it's created a lot of political instability in Haiti over the years. And so this is just really the latest episode of this. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't, even on its own terms. The Americans, if you listen to what American diplomats have been saying, the ones who are responsible for U.S. policy in Haiti, they've been saying, we want political stability, we want political stability, this is why we need these elections, over and over again. And it's not working. The Haitian people have shown that they're not willing to accept elections that are fraudulent. They're not willing to accept elections with massive irregularities, and their views need to be taken into account, even if the American government and other foreign governments are paying for these elections.
Nicholas, what's likely to happen after the February 7th date when Michel Martelli is mandated to be out of office?
Well, I mean, it's an open question as to whether Martelli will even stay in office until February 7th. There are a lot of people in the political opposition who are saying he needs to leave. They're saying that they can't, credibly participate in elections when Martelli has a hand in organizing them. And so there is that demand. Whether Martelli steps down before then or not, that'll raise the question of appointing a provisional government. I know Myrland Manigat, a former presidential candidate in the 2010 elections, has put herself forward as a possible successor, a provisional president for Mr. Martelli. But I think the most important thing is to have a government that has the accord of not only Martelli and his political companions, but also the political opposition, a government that will create real consensus in Haiti. Because what the international community has tried to do so far is just ram through with elections, even though they were completely lacking in credibility, and that hasn't worked. So hopefully that will change.
So you mentioned that outside influence has to stay out of Haiti's electoral process, but what else needs to happen to continue on a path toward a real democracy, stability, and really economic development for the people there?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Jude Celestin and the political opposition were demanding was a full inquiry into the electoral fraud to determine what the actual results of October 25th were and whether fraud and irregularities were severe enough that the vote needs to be redone. So that's really the first thing, is they need to get to the bottom of what actually happened and how severe the fraud was on October 25th. The government appointed an evaluation commission over the holidays, but they were very rushed and they were only able to scratch the surface. They found evidence of fraud, they found evidence of grave irregularities, but they weren't able to establish who benefited from them, who was responsible for it. So, I mean, that's still an open question, is you have electoral results that nobody believes are credible, and those need to be addressed. And there were a host of other recommendations that this evaluation commission made to the government and which weren't implemented. And so really, when you see the anger on the streets and you see people protesting, and they've been protesting for weeks and weeks before this past week when things got violent, you have to see it in that context, which is that there are real concerns about the credibility of these results, and nothing has been done. So really, that's the first thing that needs to happen.
Well, Nikolas Shaw, we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.